Okay, well, welcome to the 2022 Internet Marketing Plan. Super excited about the content here because how you start out the year and how you set your goals and how you navigate towards those goals is just absolutely critical. You want to start out the year strong. I know that everyone's busy. I know you have a lot of choices in where you put your time. So congratulations in jumping on the webinar. I think it's safe to say that people that are growth oriented, they look for new information. They look for feedback so that they can get further along. People that are growth oriented, they have coaches and so on. So I hope to share with you some good information that will be helpful throughout the year. I know there's some great stuff here. Specifically, I just want to break this down before we go into this. The importance of goal setting, absolutely critical. If you don't have goals, you've already arrived. You're there. So that's not going to be too growth oriented. I want to support you in trying to figure out how many leads you need to hit your goals for 2022. And then I want to break that down by month to month. So I want to walk through the formula on how to do that. I'm going to touch on the latest trends that I see coming in 2022. And then if we could develop a customized plan that's going to work for you, that would be really good. So a couple different ways to do webinars. I don't know exactly how many are on this webinar, but if you could participate, I'm going to ask a question or two in here. If you could participate, it's going to be more interactive. It's going to be more engaging. So that would be helpful. So that's where we're headed. Okay, in light of the great content, if you could just watch your cell phones, Facebook notifications, all that kind of stuff, try to cut down distractions, and then we can get super serious about hitting goals for 2022. Quick background on who I am. My team and I have been doing this for about 12 years. We specialize with basement waterproofing foundation repair companies. We are an award-winning Google partner. Let's see, I've been on the Basement Health Association board for over a decade. I am the host of a podcast called the Rainmaker for Contractors. The last guest I had was George Henley, and he happens to be the keynote speaker for the Basement Health Association annual conference that's happening in Las Vegas next week. And I just want to tell you, because I've talked to so many contractors throughout the year, what's the biggest issue in the industry? It's recruiting people to do the work, right? It's recruiting people to install the work, and it's recruiting sales reps. And so that's the first question I hit him up with. George Henley is a very expensive consultant for contractors. He has several mastermind groups. So I hope you're able to take advantage of that. But like I mentioned, how we're different is we really focus on basement waterproofing and foundation repair. Okay, so very briefly, this is kind of like our formula for success for the contractors that we work with. We have to have a high converting website that converts traffic. You're not looking for how many visitors you want, right? Like you want phone calls. So then you need all the things about local SEO in place and systems to grow your local SEO so you can get those free leads. Google Ads is absolutely critical. It's just a great way to kind of jumpstart your company. And then Facebook ads is becoming more of a player, less expensive lead, lower quality, kind of a teeter-totter with leads. The more you pay, kind of the higher the quality of lead. Your online reputation is absolutely critical. Nurturing those leads, following up, social media is important, and then tracking them so you can figure out where your dollars are going and what's your return on investment. So, what is the hardest part about online lead generation? If you want to put that in the chat, go for it. I'd love to hear your feedback. What comes to mind when you're asked that question? What's the hardest part about online lead generation? What I typically hear with this question is it's just really hard to track things. It's really hard to say, all right, we put these dollars here, not sure about our return. We know half of our marketing dollars are working great. We don't know which half is working, right? So there's great opportunity. I mean, more and more we're seeing digital marketing to be, the place to generate leads. So it's a major investment. It's a lot of money. Boy, I mean, how much money are people spending on Google AdWords? Google Ads and Angie and local SEO, because that's where it's at. Now, there's still things that matter. Like if you want to really grow your company, there's mailers, there's shows. You could have a show and event department. You could do TV, radio for branding for the bigger companies. But usually, the people that like the masses in basement waterproofing, most of them are not, running major sections on the Saturday morning home improvement show. So the challenge is spending a lot of money, and it's like, where's our return? Like, what are we getting in return for the money that we're spending? Too many options. There's not a clear plan. You could overspend, you could underspend. You don't even know, like not even sure really what's working and what's not. And then you don't have goals and plans. So that's some of the challenges. What is your ROI? How do you get that back? How do you measure that? So what are your goals for 2022? I'm guessing that there's a lot of contractors that do not have goals written down for the year 2022. I just spoke with a contractor this morning, and I asked him, do you have your goals written down, or do you have your goals even set in your head? And it's like, well, not yet. I'm going to get that done, but not yet. So, goals are really, really critical. Brian Tracy says success is goals and all else is commentary. All else is sort of kind of sitting on the sidelines and making comments. Got to share this with you. It's always motivating when I review it. There was a study done several years ago of Harvard graduates. So in 1979, a large group of graduates from Harvard were interviewed, and there's 3 different categories. 84% of them had no specific goals. 13% had goals in their head, but not written down. And then 3% had very clear written down goals and plans to accomplish them. So they went back 20 years later, like, where did these people end up? And what's the impact of having goals written down? So 13% of the class who had goals were earning on average twice as much as the 84% who had no goals at all. Well, that's pretty huge, but it gets better, because the 3% that had clear written down goals were earning on average 10 times as much as the 97% put together out of everybody, which is just huge. So gosh, it's the results say that when you have clear written down goals and a plan to get there, you're going to earn more money. You're going to hit your goals, whatever your goals are, if they're related to revenue or profitability or whatever those are. So please use this as a motivation to write your goals down for 2022 if you don't have them already, and then have monthly goals is where we're headed, and then to be able to break those down. And I want to, it gets tricky with basement waterproofing, and you're selling different services, and how do you measure an average job and all that kind of stuff. I want to walk you through those things. So you need to have written goals and break those down for a 1 year, quarterly goals, and then monthly goals. And you've got to have like a starting point and an ending point for each one of these. And you have to be consistent. So when you're comparing numbers, it makes sense, and you're comparing apples to apples. So, let me say something about goals and making decisions and writing these goals down. One of the things I've learned about decision making is, 1, we all kind of struggle with decision making. 2, we sort of wait to make decisions. Why do we wait? Because we want more information. And as a matter of fact, the more information we have, like if all the information is there, it's very, very easy to make a decision because, hey, the data has been collected, it's there. But in business, so often you're making decisions on the fly and you only have partial information. So the partial information is risky because you want to wait. Gosh, if I wait a few months longer, I'm going to have more data, and then I'm going to have more information. I'll make a more accurate decision. So somewhere there's that balance between I have enough information to take action, or I don't have enough information, I'm going to wait. Too many of us like to wait. Now, to make that decision making easier is exactly where we're headed. Because if you could put the work into tracking where your money's going, what leads are coming in, what leads are selling, what your return on investment is for those advertising dollars, now it gets super easy to make those decisions. When I owned my waterproofing company, we tracked, it was maybe a little bit overkill, but it was daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly goals. And when I'm at the end of a quarter and I'm looking at all my lead sources and I see the return on investment and the cost per lead, how hard is that to say, gee, for example, I had a telemarketing room. Wow, like that's coming in at 25%. That's way too high. Like there's a major issue going on here. Oh, wow, look at this, mailers. I'm spending 5% cost to net sales on my mailers. This is phenomenal. Gee, can I spend more money on mailers and less money on telemarketing? That's not rocket science. So I had the data right in front of me to make a decision. How did that happen? I was collecting reports throughout. I had that discipline and that system in place, so decisions are easy to make. All right, so I want to be able to support you. Again, yearly goals, monthly goals, and then more specifically, how many leads do you need to schedule or book? And then how many demos will that require? Now we know that not all leads that you schedule actually turn into what we call a demo, or some people call it a sit. And then what your average sale is, and then what your net closing percentage is. So if you could track those things, that's going to be really critical to setting that foundation and for your company to grow, right? So we all talk about, we want our company to grow, but now's the time to put those systems in place. When it's raining and there's craziness and you can't even stop the leads from coming in, that's not the time to put these systems in place. All right, so I'm going to walk through each of these. Let's see. Yeah, all right, so I'm going to, before I move on to the next slide, when I use the word demo or sit, I'm not talking about the rep goes to the house and the homeowner only gives them 10 minutes. Like, that's not a presentation. You have to draw the line and you have to have a definition of what a demo is. And so in my book, it's a price made it to the table. And the reps are trained to not put a price on the table unless they did a full presentation. If the homeowner's like, hey, I got 10 minutes, just give me a price. No, sorry, I'm not going to do you justice. I need to sit down with you and get some information, do a full inspection, offer you different solutions on how to do this. I'm sorry, I can't do this in 10 minutes. Gee, if the office didn't do their job in explaining, we needed an hour and a half, that's on us. But I'll tell you what, let me call the office and reschedule right now so we could really do a good presentation so you have all the information you need. That's a reschedule. So a demo is you made a full presentation and a price went on the table. A book lead, in my book, maybe everyone doesn't do this, but you have both homeowners, they speak English, preferably there's a job and there's an issue that is in relation to the services that you offer. If there's water come over the top, if it's a leaky pipe, those are not services that you're offering. So that's not a book lead. So the scheduling people know to not schedule that, right? Your average sale, you're just going to have to take it. I mean, some people are selling like egress windows or a crack patch or a whole drainage system. There's a couple different ways you could do that. You could just count your drainage systems, or you could just take your revenue and divide it by your jobs. But somewhere you're going to have to be consistent. You have to have a definition of what an average sale is. And then your net closing percentage, that's basically, how many presentations you did and how many you closed. Now, I am using the word net versus gross versus net. The difference is maybe you closed, but they couldn't get financing. So it turned it into a credit challenge. So now that's not a real deal because you can't install it. Or, of course, you close it, but then they cancel before you install it. So those are the two, how they could fall off the table. So we're only talking about net closing percentage. All right, so hope you're with me so far. because we're going to go a little bit deeper here. So that I created a model for you. It's going to be different than what's really going on in your business. And I can show you how you can alternate these numbers and just make a huge difference. Through this process, I hope that you see that setting goals is much more than just a monthly revenue number and an annual number, because I'm going to walk you through and you're going to see like, holy cow, to hit 3 million, I've got to generate, X amount of leads. But if you look how this formula was put together, there's going to be some areas that if you could make a big difference in a couple different areas, it's going to save you a lot of money, and you're going to not need to book as many leads and save a lot of money and spend less money, right? So this is a model for an annual revenue of 3 million. For some of you, you do way more than this. You did it years ago. And for others of you, maybe you just hit the million mark. And even that, I wouldn't, if you hit a million last year, I would say, don't make 3 million your goal. Maybe up at like 20% or something. A 20% bump each year is a good goal for any company. All right. So in theory, you need to take that 3 million and divide it by 12. Now I'm going to revisit this, but just in theory, if you netted 250,000 a month, you're going to end up with 3 million. Why? Because 250 times 12 is 3 million, right? All right, here's the assumptions. You have to make a couple assumptions when you create this. One is, what is your average sale? So in this model, I'm using 12,500. For you, it's more, it's less, I don't know. We have clients that their average sale is 20,000. We have clients their average sale is like 6,000. It's all over the place. I picked 12,500 arbitrarily. Net closing percentage, I picked 20. I think it's low, but let's go with 20 for the model. It's doable. So from there, I can figure out that on this model, I need to schedule 200 leads. And out of those 200 leads, I need to give 100 demos. Remember, I said a demo is a full presentation with a price on the end. There's an assumption here. I'll break down the math here, but if we're scheduling 200 leads per month and we're only doing 100 demos, I hope that you picked up, hey, what happened to the 50 or to the 100 leads that a demo didn't happen? Now I'm using the percentage of 50%. I sure hope in your company it's way higher than 50%. I hope it's around 75 or 80%. But that's an area that if you influence it, if you follow up your leads, if you reschedule, if you stay on top of those very expensive leads, you can get those on the books, and then you're not going to need to spend money to generate $200 leads a month. All right. So then if you're doing 100 demos and you sell 20% of those net, you're going to end up with 20 sales. 20 sales times 12,500 is going to be your 250. All right. So I'm going to break this in case I lost you. I'm going to break this down again. Just give me 5 minutes to kind of walk through these formulas. You might not be a numbers person. This stuff might drive you crazy, but I'm only focusing on a few key numbers. If you get this down, now you could set goals for the year, the month, and you could have all these important numbers to track. All right. So our example is 3 million a year. How much is that monthly? That's going to be a net 250,000 per month. I'm assuming there's an assumption here. Your average sale is 12,500. You're going to have to figure out what that is. So that's on you. So 250,000 divided by the 12,500, that's 20 net sales per month. How many leads are you going to need to book? 200 or 2,400 for the whole year? So do the math. Like, I don't know what a leads cost you. Let's say it's $200. That's a lot of money that you're going to need to spend to get that many leads, right? Maybe it's $100. Maybe it's $50. Okay, let's break this down a little bit further. So what is the average lead book to demo rate? We'll briefly mention this. So these are leads booked, but they didn't make a demo or full presentation. So what are the reasons why a lead gets booked, but they don't do a full presentation? If you're in the business, you could name 5 of them just like that, all right? So what are the common ones? Rep got there and no one was home, right? There's one. Here's another one. Rep got there and it was not eligible. Leaky pipe, over the top, whatever it was. Here's another one. If you're a company that requires both homeowners to be there, only one homeowner is there, rep chose it was in the best interest to not do a full presentation, so it got a reset. Another one is that the lead booked and they called back the next day and said, sorry, we're going out of town, plan a vacation. Now the rep's not running the lead. And now here you have, name, address, phone number, eligible problem, someone that speaks English, an issue that you could service and you can't run it. Another one is another company gets behind you and they sell it and close it before you're able to send a rep out there. Those are probably the 5 most common reasons why leads reset. And there's, from there, there's endless reasons why. So you're going to be scheduling more leads than you're actually doing demos. 50% is extremely low. Like, quite honestly, there's a major issue in a company if you have 50%. Like, you're just totally wasting money, unless you only have, like, which you don't, but telemarketing leads, canvassing leads, and like Facebook leads. If that were the case, then 50% might be there. But chances are you're probably having a lot of internet leads, you're spending money on Angie, you have referrals coming in, and those leads should come in way higher, something like 75%. That's probably a good goal to shoot for. Net closing percentage, you got to be able to track these numbers. I sometimes talk to contractors and I'll say, do you have any idea what your net closing percentage is? And I'll hear things like, oh, dude, I close like 50 to 60%, 80%. And I usually don't argue with the person at the time in the context of the call, but like, I know there's no freaking way that they're closing like 60 or 70%. They're just not doing it. They're only counting the situations where like the stars aligned and, oh, well, I'm not counting all those and those and those and those and those. Okay, well, you kind of got to figure out what's fair to consider your net closing percentage. And you have to draw the line. If you have, if it's just you running leads, like you've got to be consistent. And if you're only comparing you to you, fine, no problem. When you start adding reps, now you have to have rules to say like, all right, that's considered a presentation. This is considered not a presentation. So now you can kind of start comparing things. When you have 5 reps, you get into all sorts of, or 10 reps, you get into all sorts of interesting situations where reps want to count leads differently because they know they're being held accountable for their closing percentage. So unless they can close it, or unless it was a really solid presentation, they're trying to figure out a way to make a modification as to why they couldn't do a presentation. So how many leads do you need to hit your monthly volume goal? So I think there's one more math formula. Hang in there with me. So if your monthly goal is 250,000 and your average sale in this case is 12,500. All right. Your extremely low lead to demo rate is 50%. And you're only going to close 20% of those. The 200 divided by 100 for the ones that aren't there and everything. Now you have 100 presentations and you close 20% of those. You end up with, you're going to need 200 leads. It's a lot of leads. So what is your average conversion rate? Leads booked to demo. I said 50%. I talked about this. So, if that's an area that you could focus on and get on the phone right away, follow up with them, use email, use text, whatever you got to do to rebook those leads. That's money sitting on the table. Gosh, you finally have a homeowner with an eligible problem and they need service. You got to jump on those leads. Like, that's just money sitting around. You can't be like, oh, well, they canceled. I don't know. I was dealing with calls somewhere else. No, like, you got to jump on those leads. You need someone to follow up. Divide your lead target goal by your conversion rate. So 200 leads, talked about 50%. That could be way higher. like 75, and you have 100 demos. So that means 100 times you or your sales manager or sales reps, there's 100 presentations that were made, let's say in the month of January. All right. So that's that second to the last line, number of demos to give 100. You have 20 sales, average sales, 12,500. So 3 million is your revenue goal. 2,500 is your monthly goal. Average sale, 12,500. Net close, 20%. Number of leads booked, 200. Demos to give 100. And number of sales per month is going to be 20. Now, did I lose anybody? Like, can everybody figure this out? I'm guessing, at least half of you don't have your goals written down. And maybe that's why you joined the webinar. It's like, hey, I kind of need a refresher on how to do this. It's easy to get lost. If anyone doesn't understand, feel free to put something on the chat with a question, or I'm happy to have a session with you to walk you through how to set goals. Goals are just absolutely critical. If you don't have them set, like, hey, you know what? You've already arrived, right? All right, so I'm going to go one level deeper. Ready? So we know that not all months are created equal. We know what you're going to do in January and December are not what you're going to do in April through October. I'm in the Chicago market, and that's how it was for me. Now, I know different markets do different things, but I always figured out in what months is my business coming in. And then I broke that down because I want realistic goals. Because if my goal of 250,000 is set for every single month, I know I'm going to crush that in some months, and I know I'm not going to come near to that in other months. So we all know goals need to be realistic and obtainable. Otherwise, they're just numbers on the wall. We want to be able to, I want to hit that goal. I want to make it realistic. So this is what I did. This was common. Each year I might have made a modification or two. I typically would look at my last 3 year, head towards those winter months. So figure this out for you as you do your monthly goals. And then I'll show you what to do with this information. Now, this is, I think, going to be a jump. All right. So I do get asked, like, hey, is there like software that figures this stuff out? Do I have to do it by hand? Yes and yes. The thing about software is you still got to fill it in. Like, you can't read your mind. It doesn't know like who booked a lead. It doesn't know what reps ran. It doesn't know your average sale. So you've got to enter that information. So whether you do it on Excel, which is super easy to do, or you're doing it on some other software, you still have to have the discipline and routine to enter this information, at least once a month. But you got to be collecting this information. You can't wait to the end of the month to be like, hey, do you remember what happened on January 5th? Like, didn't you run? You can't do that. So quite honestly, you're gonna kind of need to keep some daily information, and then you need to summarize that per week, and then put that together at the end of the month. But an Excel sheet is a great way to start. There's easy ways to put formulas in here, and if you don't have someone to show you how to do this, please reach out to us. It's pretty simple. So I'm going back to these numbers, and I put them in the second column right next to the month. So January, I'm only going to do 5% of that $3 million goal, right? So then that's going to totally affect the number of leads that I need to book. And then you cut that in half, because the leads booked versus the demos or the sets, it's only going to be half. Hopefully your goal is closer to like 75, right? And then your close percentage, like you can close more than 20%, but I'm just using 20% here. So if you close 20%, of those 60 demos that you did, you're going to have 12 sales. And then there's your revenue goal of 150,000. So that's a lot more doable than I think we had 250,000 in January. January can be a tough month. But I was talking to someone in Toronto yesterday. A lot of snow on the ground in Toronto. Those are tough months. They had some really cold months, and it's challenging to hit those goals. So it's going to be different. So you take these numbers and put them in an Excel sheet, and you work the math. So if you've got to know what you did last year. So, again, if you did $1 million last year and you want to go to 3 million, like that's not realistic in 9 out of 10 cases. So make your goals obtainable. Try to take steps. Like, you don't want $3 million because I doubt you have the systems in place to handle that kind of business. It's going to be a bunch of headaches. It's going to be a bunch of poor craftsmanship and a lot of service calls and probably a lot of complaints on your Google business profile. So you got to take steps. You got to have systems in places, and you've got to do this in a professional way. Success doesn't come overnight, right? If you look at your competitors and look at these big companies, they just didn't start with 10 million. It didn't happen that way. But they do have systems in place that they're going to be able to make decisions that's going to carry them to help them grow. All right, so I want to hit 6 ways to hit your revenue goal and save some money. All right, I've covered a couple. I want to start with know your why, because if your why is in the right place, you're going to be more motivated. On occasion, I talk to a customer, or not a customer, just somebody in the business. I'm like, hey, how'd you get in basement waterproofing? And they'll tell me a story like, well, I was a sales rep here, or my dad or my uncle, I was, in the back doing shovels, and one thing led to another, and I started doing my own business, and then I opened up. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And then if they use the comment of like, yeah, it's good money, it's good money. I get some pause there, right? Because I think there's an incredible why, an incredible great why in our industry as far as why we do what we do. And if you think about basement waterproofing and foundation repair, to me, like, it's an amazing thing because you're creating a healthier environment for families in your community. Like, that's awesome. So like, families can enjoy your work. We know that half of the air in the main floor and upstairs comes from the bottom. So if the basement is moldy or it's got dampness issues, they're breathing, half that air they're breathing upstairs is coming from downstairs. So getting that water out of there, reducing the moisture, creating a healthier environment, that's awesome. Like, that's a great why, right? Yes, you need profit. You need profit. Profit's not a bad word. You need profit to keep your doors open. If you don't have profit, you're not going to be able to serve anybody, right? But there's that person that wants an office in their basement. So many people are working from home. There's the teenage daughter that wants more room downstairs away from the parents, so they get to use the basement. There's people that are wanting to work out. I mean, is it smart to be on a treadmill and breathe, moldy air in the basement? No. There's people that are protecting their valuables. There's people that want the peace of mind. They've been going on vacations, checking their weather app 5 times a day to make sure it doesn't rain when they're away, because they're used to like dealing with the heavy rains themselves and trying to stop the water from coming in. They want the peace of mind that this basement is going to be fixed. Never mind the resale value. 90% of people don't want to buy a house that's got a leaky basement. Who wants to inherit that mess, right? So we're doing a great service in the waterproofing and foundation repair business, and that's a phenomenal why, to serve customers. So here's another one. Websites that convert. What is a conversion? It's when your phone rings, you get to talk to a customer that has a problem that you can help, right? So if you pull up your phone right now on your website, on your cell phone, and pull up your website, is that something that's built to convert a phone call? Like, you want to be able to do one click, the phone number should show, and then hit another number and it should dial. Because if you have a slow loading website, I'm going to go over this checklist. If it's just slow, if it's like, I'm sure this number's here, us most people today have some form of ADD. We just have lower patience. We want our information now, and we will spend more time on websites that give us the information quickly. So when you have a website that converts more traffic into leads, that's going to save you a lot of money, because you're spending all this money to drive people to your website so that they hopefully call your number or fill out a web form so someone from your office can call back and book that appointment. So you want to make sure that you have these things in place on your website so that it converts better. The biggest thing that I find is, does your website load quickly on both desktop and mobile? Now, the owner's checking on their desktop. They're like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's cool. If you go to Google page speed test, if you just type in page speed test Google or Google page speed, it's going to give you the option to enter a URL. So put your URL, ABC Basement Waterproofing, drop it in there and hit enter. It's going to give you the option of, here's how fast it loads in mobile, here's how fast it loads on desktop, and you should have 90% or higher on both. And I bet you that half of the traffic that's coming to your website is coming on mobile. And mobile is often an overlooked area because we're sitting in front of our desktops. So that's a common one. I encourage everyone to have authentic images, avoid stock photos. They want to see you, right? They don't want to see the Wizard of Oz behind a curtain with big images. They want to see online reviews. And yes, they're more trusted on places like Google and Facebook, but put them on your website and brag about them, because I bet you have some great reviews. Does it make it easy for them to take action and to get in contact with you? Is the phone number in the top right-hand corner? Is there an easily accessed web form? Are you asking for too much information on the web form? You're trying to get everything before you even get in touch with them? And do you have those credibility symbols so that someone can say, all right, let's see, Andy Super Service Award, BBB A+ rating, on and on, like Basement Health Association certified, whatever it is. You need a lot of those. And I always encourage people to collect them. Get as many as you can, because those are symbols where people see those and they're like, okay, they have a lot of reviews, they have a lot of credentials. This company looks very, they got to be in the running here. They look good. So other calls to action, call now, fill out this form, those little things. There's not like, I can't give you a magic wand that if you put these 5 words on your web page, it's going to like increase it by 10%. It's not how it works. Internet marketing is just a bunch of little things doing a bunch of little things right. Are you giving them, here's a good one. Are you giving them the opportunity to engage through chat? Chat is becoming more and more popular. We like to convert that to text so that they put their cell phone number in your chat and now they could text you. And maybe they're not ready for a phone call. Maybe they're like, oh, wait on, I'm just trying to get some information here. Do you service this area? And then now that you've started a conversation, you could flip that over into, can we talk on the phone, or can I schedule an appointment with you? Also, when you collect their cell phone number, now that's much further along in their relationship because you have their cell phone number. And are you leveraging marketing automation like text, like automated emails that follow up? So those kind of things will give you a higher converting web page, and it's going to save you some money. So if you go to rainmakercontractors.com/free resources, I think we have about 5 different things on there. You're going to be able to find a checklist for how to make your website more convertible, more converting. Okay. All right. If you have a pen handy, or if you want to put something in chat, go for it. But come up with like 1 or 2 things right now that you could change on your website that's going to convert more web visitors into phone calls or web forms or chat, something that you can engage the customer in. Like, why spend whatever you're spending on lead generation and not have this optimized so that you can get more leads? So if you can save more money, spend less in advertising, get more leads, hit your goals, now your profitability increases, right? Okay. Number 3, customer culture customer review culture. I think a very, very important factor is how many reviews you have and what your rating is on Google. I believe that your Google business profile is the #1 most important place to have your reviews anywhere in the United States. Google dominates the search engine. Something like 85% of all searches are done on Google. We know that when people want to do business, those stats are even a little bit higher. So you need to have as many reviews as possible on your Google business profile, and you need to create a company culture that just systems in place that everyone understands how important customer reviews are. All right, so I'm going to unpack those a little bit, and I'm going to put some pretty powerful things here. Questions. Are you asking for reviews on 90% of your completed jobs? So if I can unpack this a little bit, some people like to send at the end of the month, like a request for reviews. Oh, here's the jobs that we did. We're just going to do an email blast and hopefully we'll get some. You'll get a few, right? And even if you did that once a week, you'll get some. But if the foreman's there to ask the homeowner for a review at the end of the job and there's a person there, dynamics totally change. I talked to someone last week, contractor, and I asked them about reviews and they said, oh, our crews know they ain't getting paid unless they come back with a review. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's pretty strong. I'm not suggesting that, but at least the people know on his staff how important customer reviews are, right? I think my follow-up question was like, hey, I hope you have something positive. Like if we hit a certain goal of customer reviews, that there's going to be a free lunch or something like that, right? Do you have monthly posted goal number for customer reviews in the office? Do people know where you're at, and do people know where you're trying to get it? Let's say you have 10, right? 10 reviews right now. At the end of the month, I bet you can get to 14. I just bet you can. I think that's a totally doable number. And if you only have 10 and you've been in business for a year or something, that means you got less than 1 per month. And so if you got 4 from the remaining 2 or 3 weeks that we have in the month, that'd be a tremendous jump. Time to buy lunch for everybody. Time to do something to reward them. Figure out what they want and give it to them. But you need to motivate your staff with incentives, with goals. People need to know this. If you do a staff meeting, which is a good idea to do on occasion, do a staff meeting and start those meetings with reading 2 customer reviews. And you want to know what people want more than money, according to the studies, is acknowledgement. So when you read that review, mention the person that took the call in. They could, we know that how people answer the phone matters. We know that how long they have to wait on the line for someone to pick up matters. So acknowledge that they were played a part of that. Acknowledge the person in who's ever doing order processing or your financing, that they're usually involved as well. Acknowledge the sales rep. Acknowledge the crew and the production manager that they did that work. Oftentimes that foreman has that key relationship, but acknowledge people, and then that reinforces your mission, your vision, your why, your purpose of the company, that you're creating healthy environments for their families in your community. So use that. And then I like to take those reviews and like put them on the wall in the company, find like 5 of them and get them blown up. And then people can take pride in the fact that they helped contribute making a great review, and they help contribute to the company, because people all want to be part of a team. We're all very social beings and we like to serve others. So put that on the wall and create that company culture of reviews. And lastly, I mentioned it, incentivize your employees, like create a budget for reviews. And so here's the different levels as I talk about customer reviews, or as I see it. I talk to some owners and like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that this year. That's super important, super important. And I tell them like, hey, you got a lot going on. You're probably not going to be the champion of the cause to get customer reviews. Like, at least can you delegate this to somebody? So sometimes they're able to delegate that to somebody and then they can incentivize that person. That's a good next level. There's better levels. So instead of just the one person, move it forward into the entire company. But so the 3 levels is like the owner tries to take like be the champion. Secondly, they try to delegate it to one person. And thirdly, you really want to make a whole culture of customer reviews and why they're so important. Now, why am I going through all this stuff? Because Google has said that your customer reviews are a ranking factor in local SEO. And it's not just the number, it's the rating. And it's not just those, it's also the sentiment. When you have customers that rave about how amazing your company is, that affects your rankings. And you want to rank higher in local SEO, then get more reviews. It's part of the ranking factor. Google has come out and said this. Now, everyone loves those leads. Why? Because they're free. Like, people spend a fortune on Google Ads and Angie, but who doesn't want free leads in it? Fact of the matter is, those local SEO leads that come in, they are more trusted because you've earned it more versus advertising where you just threw money at Google. So customer reviews, absolutely critical. All right, increase your closing percentage. This is a short one. What are some ways that you can increase your closing percentage? I won't spend too much time here, but a lot of times people only measure closing percentage. But if you could break down your sales presentation, like, I believe that every sales presentation needs to have steps, and you need to be able to measure those steps and follow them. And then you need to be able to ask yourself, hey, did this step, like let's say it's the inspection, did my inspection do what it's supposed to do? Like, what could I have done differently in the inspection to make it more effective? When I covered our credentials briefly, did I see kind of the feedback that they felt reassured that, they're dealing with a good professional company? You can go through your whole presentation. So when you break down the areas of your sales presentation, that's how you can take steps towards increasing your closing percentage. I'll mention this. If you go, there is a sales training conference coming up March 2nd and 3rd in Nashville, Tennessee. It's designed for basement waterproofing and foundation repair companies. It's led by myself along with John Bryant, and the website is Effectus Leadership. It's EFFECTUS leadership.com, and that's all the information that you need. If you need any more, feel free to reach out to me. We've gotten great feedback from people sending reps to that 2-day sales training. We're doing it, once or twice a year for about 8 years. All right. Know and track your KPIs, key performance indicators. When we talk about KPIs, don't pick too many, pick a handful and track them and know what they are and improve on them. If you can measure it, you can improve it. If you can't measure it, how are you going to improve it? If you can't measure it and you're not satisfied with it, then it's like, I don't know what we're doing, but I'm frustrated. I know we could be doing better. Well, let's measure it. Let's see what's happening. And then let's see if we can improve it. But if you're guessing, you're guessing, right? So eliminate some frustration, put a number to it, and then let's take steps to see if we can improve that. All right. Here's a shout out to us. Work with an agency that specializes with basement waterproofing foundation repair. We get so many clients that say like, hey, I'm switching to you guys because you understand basement waterproofing. Or we've heard a lot about you, but there's so much ambiguity that we're eliminating by working with, by working with a company that gets it, right? So that's a shout out to us. So what are 3 things that you want to improve on? Again, if you could take out your pen or wherever you keep your notes, just try to write down 3 things that you can improve on. Covered a lot of material. We talked about goals, setting goals. If you're stuck on any of these, please reach out to me. Happy to have a conversation about it. We're here to help people succeed. All right, key trends for 2022. This is where I see internet marketing going. It changes constantly. It's like the wild, wild west still. There's so much technology that's coming out, and people are warming up to it, adapting to it, leveraging it. I like this one, shift phone conversations to message conversations. You want to be able to, get a text number and convert them to chat. So that's a critical one. Don't just like have your phone number and hope everyone converts over to phone calls. Have a more authentic website. So that means images, and I'm going to cover videos. Get rid of your stock photos, allow people to see behind the curtain, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's something like 96% or 98% of all photos on the internet are taken with a smartphone. So you don't need the perfect lighting and you don't need the perfect everything. Your hair doesn't have to be perfect. People want to see who you are. I do recommend having, for staff people and for laborers, have uniforms, right? Like show the logo. If you wrap your vehicles, show those vehicles. It's part of branding. They do want to see a professional image, but they also want to see, real people. So avoid your stock photos. Video, and more video. Boy, as we go further on with the internet, people like videos, right? That we don't have to read things. We could just listen. Let someone read to us. It's like a bedtime story. We hit play. Hopefully that video is like a minute or less. People like short videos. I think that the companies that are going to win, they're going to be all in kind of companies. They're going to be doing local SEO. They're going to be doing paid social, Home Advisor, Angie. They're kind of having all those different lead sources, and they're being able to be found by homeowners just about everywhere. And I'm going to tie that into remarketing. Like Facebook and Google offer some pretty slick remarketing where when they go to your website, the pixel on the website behind in the code picks up their IP address. Now they find them on a different platform and they show this image of your company. And that form of advertising is a lot less expensive. It's not going to convert as high as something like a Google search, but it's a clever way to keep your company in front of them. And then lastly, I think more marketing automation, emails, text, online calendars. I mean, we're setting up clients now so that when a web form comes in, an email goes out automatically, no big deal. But if they're not responding in say a couple hours, now another email goes out or a text goes out immediately and a text goes out in a couple hours. Hey, give us a call. Oh, they don't respond again? Send your online calendar. Hey, I just want to make it real easy for you to connect with us. Have that automation set up because you don't want leads falling through the cracks. Again, this is like now that I've kind of covered what I've covered, you could take a quick look at this and say like, well, what areas can we take a step in? You have website conversion, spend a lot of time there, local SEO, Google ads, Facebook, your reputation. We talked about customer reviews, talked about nurturing leads with remarketing and so on, and also just following up, social. And we talked about return on investment, like tracking your lead sources. So again, what are the three most important things that you need to take away from this? Boy, I would say the biggest thing, if you don't already have this in place, is just write down your goals and don't make it too complicated that you're not going to be able to follow it. I'm a big fan of this book called Atomic Habits. One of the most important things I got out of that book is when you're trying to build a new habit, try to find a habit that's already in place and make a minor addition to that habit. That way you're not like starting something brand new and don't have the time for it. You already have this time for this habit that you don't even think and you do it already. You're just going to add a little thing to it, whatever that is, and be consistent. We know it takes at least 28 days, once a day, to form a new habit. So get in the habit of writing your goals down, tracking your information, and you really should have a notebook. You should have a notebook with your monthly reports so that you can compare this month to that month and track your history. And that's going to give you that foundation to make more effective decisions. We talked about it's difficult to make decisions when you don't have the data. But when you have the data and you can say, well, historically, this is what we've done. We've made some changes. We think it might go here. It's way easier to make decisions. It's going to save you a lot of money. And then you can leverage your marketing dollars better and you can grow more effectively. So again, I threw a lot of information out at you. Try to figure out like, what'd you learn? What'd you notice? What'd you share? And if you want to chat I'm just about done. If you have a question or if you have a takeaway that you thought was good, I'd love to hear what you have for feedback. So please put that in the chat. And some of the things we've covered, like setting goals, optimizing your website for conversions, latest trends, and it's kind of up to you to come up with your customized plan, right? Like you really have to, if you don't have this, you have to know what your average sale is. You have to know what your leads booked to demo rate is. And you have to know what your close percentage is. You have to know those things. And it's really helpful to know what you did last year in volume so you can, up it maybe 20% and compare it to 2022, break it down per month. And now you could track that. And now you know how to spend your dollars to get to where you're going. Real fast, I have a goal of reading 2 books per month. I've shared that with a couple of people, and it's funny, 2 of the people said the same thing. Like 85% of the people that have New Year resolutions, like they don't actually hit their goals. It's like, okay, I'm going to try anyway. And that's cool. I know that. I've set goals before and haven't always hit them, but I'll be that much further ahead. And I'd rather be on the field trying to win versus, sitting on the couch or in the bleachers, lobbing insults at the referee or the other team, right? Like I want to be on the field, and that's what it's going to take to grow. And so I'm going to try. So let's get up to the plate and take swings at the pitch coming down. If you don't take a swing, you're never going to hit the ball. So I would encourage you to really try to apply this stuff. Success is in the application. It's not in the knowledge. It's not in the learning. So try to apply this stuff. If you need any help with any of this stuff, if you have any questions, or if you want a free strategy acceleration session, we'll look at your online presence, everything you have going on, your rankings, your reviews, your links, social presence, website conversion, all sorts of things. It's free. There's no cost or obligation. Please reach out to us. We're here to help. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you got some good content out of this. Have a great 2022.